Freedom fighters have written to Parliament requesting an urgent debate regarding comments made by the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batohi. The party says comments on the NPA it has been infiltrated raise constitutional concerns. Let's find out more about the EFF's call for a debate on this, and we're joined now by EFF Member of Parliament, Carl Niehaus. Mr. Niehaus, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. The implications of Advocate Batohi's statement are far-reaching. This is part of what your statement says. Do you want to expand on that particular sentence that I've just extrapolated?
Yes, indeed, Collie, and thanks for having me. It's very important that we must have this discussion because what Advocate Batohi revealed is indeed a constitutional crisis. Here we have the National Director of Public Prosecutions telling us that there are both external and internal meddling in the work of the NPA. Now, in terms of the NPA Act number 32, this is entirely illegal. In terms of our own constitution, every South African citizen should have the right to be treated equally by the law and must be treated properly by the National Prosecuting Authority. No one should be targeted specifically, nor should anyone be left off the hook if they are committing crimes. What the National Director of Public Prosecutions told us in that interview is that she's unable to do her job, that she's faced with a crisis, that there are interventions and manipulations of the work of the NPA and of the law. Now, this is a constitutional crisis, and that's why the economic freedom fighters wrote two letters. We wrote an urgent letter to the Speaker of the National Assembly, and we said that in terms of Rule 130 of the rules of the National Assembly, we must have an urgent emergency debate about this crisis, and we will sponsor that debate through our Commander-in-Chief and President, Julius Malema. We've also written to the Portfolio Committee for Justice and Constitutional Development and insisted that the committee must have as an emergency the Minister and the National Director of Public Prosecutions brought before it in order to explain the details of this very disturbing statement that the National Director had made.
Well, let's try and gain entry into this through the Justice Portfolio Committee. I did try to push Advocate Batohi as to what does she mean? Who are these people? And she simply says it's too difficult. She can't talk more on it except to take the executive into her confidence. Do you think that members of the public deserve to know exactly the form of this crisis is, as you say, given the history of where the NPA comes from, and that is the history of capture?
Ollie, I think it is critically important that the members of the public must know what is happening. And that is why it is so important that in addition to this urgent debate in the National Assembly, the Portfolio Committee for Justice and Constitutional Development must execute its oversight function and engage in detail with the National Director of Public Prosecutions and the Minister about this. And honestly, Advocate Batohi cannot say to us, all these things are happening. I'm deeply concerned. I can't sleep at night. I just listened to the extract of the interview that you played, but I can't tell the public. It is the South African public who are the victims of this kind of manipulation, of this kind of abuse of the law. And therefore, it is the South African public that have the right to know what is going on, and we have the right to use our various parliamentary institutions for oversight in order to reveal what exactly is going on. Here we have a crisis. The National Director of Public Prosecutions tells us there's a crisis. She tells us that there's capture of the NPA. If this is indeed the case, and there are many examples of cases that are not properly dealt with, people where there's evidence and yet they are not found guilty, where there are cases that go on for years and there is no resolution. The only way to deal with this is head on. The only way is to institute now the various provisions of the Constitution, and for the National Assembly, as the important legislative wing and oversight of government and also protector of the people of South Africa, to intervene as a matter of urgency and emergency. And that's why we honestly hope that the Speaker of the National Assembly will make sure that this urgent debate will take place next week, and nothing must be covered up. And Advocate Batohi mustn't come and tell us, I'm going to tell the president, but I won't tell the people. The president himself has been implicated in matters of investigation that never came to a conclusion. We all know about what happened with Phala Phala. So how do you go to one of those where there's already a dark cloud of suspicion over, and you say, I'm going to unburden my heart to the president? No. The only place where this matter can be dealt with adequately is in the National Assembly and by the Portfolio Committee for Justice and Constitutional Development.
All right.
It is now a matter that must be in the hands of Parliament. We have laid down an oath to serve the people, and this letter from the economic freedom fighters is exactly in line with executing that oath to serve the people of South Africa and protect them from interventions and manipulation that undermine the rule of law.
As a final question to you, you've already answered part of what I would have asked you before we end the conversation as to when you were hoping that this debate would ensue. And you're saying as early as the week that we are going into, we'll see what the Speaker has to say about that.
Yes,
finally,
it's an emergency, so it must happen immediately.
All right. Finally, then, take us back, Mr. Niehaus. Take us back to what the NPA has faced over the years. We know of a period of 10 years where it has been a complete disaster for the NPA. Under whose watch was this, and what are the dangers of it happening again?
Look, it was under the watch of the African National Congress government. It happened under the watch of the ANC, and it continues to happen right now under the watch of the African National Congress as the largest party in the government of national unity. And of course, Advocate Batohi cannot escape responsibility. She has been in this position since 2018. She's been a most ineffective National Director of Public Prosecution. And as we ask ourselves today, has she even got a security clearance? We ask ourselves, is Advocate Batohi still, in terms of the law, adequately provisioned for to be in that position, because usually retirement is at 65? What is going to happen? Is her tenure going to be extended? Now, I do not want to launch unnecessary attacks on her, but she herself, as the person who since 2018 has been in charge, need to take co-responsibility for this disaster, which she acknowledges herself as an external and internal manipulation of the workings of the NPA. And therefore, I as a citizen and you, Collie, as a citizen, cannot rely on an even-handed and equal treatment by the NPA. And that is a constitutional crisis.
Carl Niehaus, thank you very much for your time. EFF Member of Parliament, and we are going to watch the space and listen carefully to how the Speaker responds.